Welcome back to Unraveling the Brain. I'm Kyle Hogan, the video director here at Infinity, and today I get the distinct pleasure of talking with one of our wonderful parents here to tell their family's journey throughout their time here at Infinity. So without further ado, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing good.
And your name is?
My name is Sarah Mabe. We're from Georgia.
Cool.
And we came here to have my son do a 2-week intensive.
All right. So how did you find out about Infinity? What brought us to your attention?
I had started reaching out and looking for some options, some more holistic aspects of helping my son, who was at this point not fully diagnosed with autism, but we kind of knew where this diagnosis was leading and wanted to kind of start as early as possible in intervention. And I reached out to a functional medicine practitioner who told me all about Infinity, about how I needed to get a laser, how I needed to start working with his diet and that sort of thing. And it led to me just Google searching and finding, getting on Instagram, looking and seeing what you guys are doing, watching the videos. And that led me and my family here.
Neat. Well, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, we have enjoyed being here for so much. These 2 weeks have been a blessing to my family. We came in, my son is he's 21 months and was diagnosed with a level 3 nonverbal autism, which is at an early age to have that is a pretty hard diagnosis to take. But also him being so young, I knew that there was a lot of options and a lot of potential for us to change that, to help with these challenges that he was facing, and to just give him the best possible outcome that he can have. So we took 2 weeks and the family came up here and he's been doing remarkable. When we first got here, he wasn't even fully sitting up properly. He would get fatigued and he would lay back. And so very infant-like, just did not have that strength, did not have that muscle capacity, not just physically, but just also cognitively. He wasn't able to clap, point, self-feeding was an issue, not crawling, not walking, and he's almost 2. So at the end of our 2 weeks, he won't sit down. He is just cruising all over the furniture in the rental house, and he's going around to everything. He's even had his first little toddler meltdown, which was as much as I had to tell him, like, no, you can't get on the swings right now. But because that's his favorite thing in the world here is just the swings. But as much as I had to tell him no, I was also so relieved to see him having this toddler meltdown that showed that he was understanding and letting us know he wanted that and he couldn't have it. And he was pitching a fit about it. And he's never had the sense to do that. He's never had the sense to communicate that this is what I want. Or him to understand that he has the ability to fight it and say, no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to throw my hands on the ground and I'm going to squirm away and I'm going to bow up and I'm going to get out of this. And so as challenging as that was, it's like, wow, I came here with this small baby and now I've got a toddler. And that was amazing.
In the span of 2 weeks.
And we have been FaceTiming my family throughout the whole trip. And my dad, he even said, that's a totally different kid than when you got here. And he said, any hesitation that I had about these therapies, because my dad, it was all new to him, me explaining to he's so open-minded. He was so like, oh, this is interesting, but how does all this work? This is, and he just delved right in and started doing some research himself. And he said, any hesitation I had, gone. He said, it's just gone. And so my husband, he had to stay back and work. And so we're FaceTiming him and he's like, wow, I can't wait to meet my new son, because he's not the same kid as when we left at all. And I'm just, from a mother's point of view, that is just, I am thankful for this place. I am thankful for this space and what you guys do here, because this needs to be available to everybody. This needs to be in more places. This needs to be accessible to more people. More practitioners need to know about this and have this training and be able to provide this to any of their clients, if you're an OT, if you're a PT, if whatever it is, if you aren't able to do these, then you're missing a huge key in these children's development and abilities to help them have the best possibility of a fulfilled life with what they can do with from developmental disabilities to autism to anything like that. This is where the true healing occurs in these places. This is where the true help comes from. It's not from mainstream doctors. It's not from other. All these other therapies are wonderful. OT, PTs, ABAs, people, they do love those. They see benefit from that. That wasn't something that we wanted to utilize all of those. We wanted to do some of that, but also say that's just one part of this and say, okay, we're also going to add in this functional neurology aspect. We're also going to add in functional medicine, and we're going to, we're doing the diet change. He's gluten-free. He's dairy-free. We're working on sealing his gut. We've done the labs. The biggest thing for us was to see, okay, we need to get a full makeup of everything that we have from him, from the neural zoomers to the GI maps to all of those things, and say, what do we have going on? What do we see that he has from a medical standpoint? And then be able to say, this is what we're dealing with, and this is how we're going to address every one of them and work our way down so that there's nothing that we've missed, and see what we can get from our son, and see if we can see this level 3 nonverbal autistic toddler. Maybe he won't even test as autistic in the years to come, when we retest and say, okay, maybe he starts to walk, he starts to talk, he starts to interact. Just his eye contact. This morning, for the first time, he got up out of his crib. My mom, she's here helping me with the kids, and she brought him into the living room and stood him up instead of setting him down because he wanted to stand. And he surfed from the couch to the chair and came over to me and put his arms up. He's made eye contact. He wanted me to pick him up. He's just, and those are communication too. That's him saying, this is what I want, and I want you to hold me, and let's snuggle this morning. And then when he was done, he squirmed around and got himself off the couch, and he was off around the coffee table finding some toys, and just different kid.
Even here, just the little bit of time that I've gotten to spend with you all, just from Monday of this week to today, just seeing, that sense of agency that he seems to have, and just not that he was avoiding you by any means, but I think today more so, he was doing all of his exercises and therapies and doing tremendously with them. But then at the end, just knowing like, hey, I'm getting tired and I can communicate that. B, I just want to be back with my mom,
right.
And making that very clear and just going in for that hug.
He's never looked for me for that comfort. So he's never really had that sense of, where a lot of kids, when they're in a situation where, I'm in a different place, or I'm with people that I don't recognize, and they kind of withdraw a little bit, kind of come to mom and dad for that comfort. He never did that. And we walk in now, and he's like, and he wants to hide his head into my shoulder, and he's holding on to me, and that's new, but that's him being more aware of his surroundings. He's, perceiving what his situation is, and where he's at, and where mom is in location to that. And he's looking to me to make sure, is this okay? And so that's that social interaction, that nonverbal, where he's trying to read my facial expressions. He's reading my body language. He's trying to tell, is she okay with this? Should I be okay with this? Is she smiling? And
watching the brain open up in real time.
Right. Yeah. And making sure that I'm encouraging him and smiling and letting him know that he's doing great. And that's never made a difference for him, because he didn't care what anybody was looking at or was saying around him. But now he's looking to me for reassurance, and that's new.
Well, you put it very succinctly and beautifully that, one of the things that I love and appreciate and think is so unique to Infinity is just how many different perspectives that the team here brings in. Like, we have OTs here. We integrate lasers into everything that we do. And I think it is just that, holistic look at everything that, and even going with the labs. So you said you did the labs beforehand and came in equipped knowing like these are what all the levels are at and what the readings are saying and how we need to address all of those things. Like all the different perspectives to give the best care possible for every individual case, I think is just such a magical thing that we get to do here.
There's no cut and dry treatment for autism. There is no, cure to it. There's no getting rid of it. There's no saying, if you do this or this, we're going to get rid of your autism. And that's not the case. It's so different for anybody, whether it be genetic or environmental. I mean, it can be just a number of things. It's multifactorial.
Mm-hmm.
And
perfect storm.
You need to be able to see what you have going on in their bodies from their brain to their gut and know what that is so that you can address it. If you don't have that, you're missing a huge component of helping them.
That is such a fascinating thing that every week I feel like I'm learning something new just to how interconnected everything is. And just, from lasering a specific part of the brain and how that goes to, helping you move your fingertips. And it's just like the little things that you wouldn't think would be so directly connected, and everything just kind of dominoes and works in tandem with each other. And just, if you spend any amount of time thinking about it, you just realize how fascinating it is that bodies work at all and just all of the connections and synapses and things that have to go right for things to work properly. It's amazing. And the fact that we have so many different ways of addressing everything and how it all connects, and kind of looking at, we have our developmental pyramid and just looking through, so many people want to skip to the end and say, what, they're having an issue with like cognition or something like that, but that's way at the top of the pyramid. And you have to have those foundational things here. And it sounds like you guys have done everything, in the proper.
We're trying to do everything that we can to possibly help him. And it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that just kind of blows my mind is the speech protocol that they do with the lasers.
Yeah.
They're lasering hands and feet and knees to help with speech.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And we went from coming here, he just had the one syllable, the mama, and now we're hearing mama.
Yeah.
So it's clearer, and it's in the babbling. He never babbled as a baby, so he didn't, play around with different sounds and stuff. And now he's just making all sorts of new little sounds, and eventually those will be put together and he will talk.
Yeah, form words and sentences. And
right.
Yeah, just I think.
And then he's going to come back and tell everybody how Infinity helped him.
That'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really neat just hearing you describe that discovery of agency, of like knowing that, hey, I want to go over there. I can go over there. I can make that happen. And just that realization and follow through with it is,
once we started seeing that, we were able to start using that to help him with his therapy. It was, he wanted to get to the swing. Okay. Well, then we're going to use that. You're going to walk. We're going to have you walk, and we're going to help and guide you and make sure that you're, doing all the occupational therapist, make sure he's lined up and he's doing everything and he's doing the hard work and he's got to do it properly and he's got to make it all the way over there. But at the end, that's the swing. That's where you want to go. Let's do it, buddy. And he's like, all right, let's do this. And he kind of sometimes just channels that anger of, oh, they're making me do this again. I don't want to do this again, but I want that swing. And that's him understanding, like, if I do this, I can get that. We've never had that before.
That's neat. So you said you started with researching the lasers. How did you, how'd you procure that? And then what all did you do at home? And then what made you think, okay, the next step is to go from there?
So this is wild. So my, the functional practitioner that I was working with is familiar with Infinity and has the lasers through here, did the training and everything. And she was telling me she was the one that introduced me to Infinity and said, this is where you need to go. This is what you need to get. I purchased the laser prior to us coming to the intensive. So we have had it for about 4 months, and we started a protocol. They emailed me, put together everything after speaking with them about what we were dealing with. They put together a laser protocol and emailed it to me. And we did this every single day for 4 months before we even got here, or about 3 months. And he went from not crawling at all to doing on his belly. So he wasn't getting on like all fours, but he was moving.
Scooting.
And that was the first time we saw him even making efforts to get somewhere. So that was his first bit of mobility, and that was at 18 months. And I contribute that a lot to the lasers and what we were dealing with at that time, because we started that. And we also started certain diets and things that we were getting some direction from how to start this process. And it was just a few simple changes. And he was mobile, in his form. It wasn't a true cross crawl, but he was getting places and he could shimmy over and get his toys and stuff. And that was a big moment for our family, just to see him be able to get from one side of the playpen to the other.
What spectrum did you all end up getting? The red or the infrared?
We have the red infrared home laser. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It's so interesting, like going back to the whole pyramid thing, and you brought in the diet along with that as well, of that, that base layer is the reducing inflammation and, stimulating the brain. And that laser just lays such excellent groundwork that I feel like, having done that for months prior to coming in, just, able to hit the ground running.
And he had a lot of food sensitivities that we wouldn't have known because there was no physical signs of food sensitivities. So, part of him going completely dairy-free, he tested on his food sensitivity panel. He has intolerances to all dairy across the board. We never would have known. He didn't have any signs or symptoms of it. It was all gut related and inflammation related. It wasn't vomiting. It wasn't diarrhea. It wasn't anything that you would have seen that would have indicated, hey, he doesn't
clearly
tolerate dairy.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Interesting. Yeah. So was it a major culture shock, like the dietary changes, just specific, or family wide?
Yes. A little bit of both. I have played around with some dairy-free recipes. I'm learning. It's still very new, trying to maintain a diet that's appropriate for him. But, 2 other kids and me and my husband are not dairy-free. So a lot of times it's just making a second meal. This is what everybody else can eat. And then he can't have that. So, but he knows that. And everybody, my oldest, she's really good. She's like, oh, he can't have that. He can't have that. He's not super interested in what we're eating anyways. So he's still in that phase of wanting things that he can grab with his hand and feed, which is progress in that aspect too. For a long time, we were only on purees, and he was only eating purees. He wouldn't touch certain things, wouldn't let certain things into his mouth, wouldn't let a spoon or anything. And then we graduated into just purees, where that was our main diet. And I was able to, put the vitamins and stuff in there and hide a bunch of stuff. And then he just one day decided he didn't want purees anymore. And that became a whole new challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're
Again,
making
the agency development.
We're making these steps. Yeah. Okay. Now you are fully self-feeding, which didn't come until, much later than it should. He was 18 months before he was 19 months before he was fully self-feeding, and decided he didn't want to have purees anymore. And so, it was okay, playing around with finger foods and what are you going to tolerate? And he still has such a sensitivity and preference to certain textures and temperatures of things. If it's a cold piece of fruit, or if it's wet, or if it's slimy, like a banana. If you give him a banana, he has to only touch the outside of it, because if you cut it up and he feels the slime on the inside, it's a no-go.
That's fair. Yeah. As an adult, I'm still very much like texture with certain things. Yeah. So I can wholly appreciate that.
Yeah. And every day with him, it's learning. And with him changing so rapidly, nothing is consistent with him, which is the only consistent thing, is that you can't count on anything, because what he's going to eat today, he may decide he's not going to eat it tomorrow. What his mobility and what he's trying to do today it's different the next day. I mean, I came with this infant like 21-month-old, and I'm leaving with a full-on toddler. So
every day's a new adventure.
And over the course of 2 weeks, that was rapid change for everybody. I came in, and the house has just little decorations and stuff on the end table and the coffee table and stuff. And you didn't have to get any of that stuff out of the way. You couldn't reach it. You couldn't get over there to it. Now everything's cleaned off. Everything's out of the way, because he's getting into everything. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So what message would you have for other parents who, might be noticing some similar things that you did early on in developmental stages, maybe some milestones are missed. Like what would your biggest advice or what would you tell them?
Don't wait.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. The earlier, the better. There's so much that can be done at such an early age for them to make sure that they don't miss those milestones. And those physical milestones of the crawling, the walking, the rolling, the sitting up, those play into so much more. I mean, it's the ground that they're going to build on, and you need to make sure that that's taken care of first. And so if you start to see that, go seek out some help and get that taken care of. We have a smaller daughter. She's 7 months this week, and she is just not as strong in her core as I would like. So while we were here for our second week, I brought her in for an exam, and they said, she actually kind of has some of the opposite. She doesn't have these reflexes yet, and she should have some of these. And that's what's preventing her from pulling her arms up when she's on her belly and being able to sit up longer periods of time unassisted. We were still kind of holding her at the waist and stuff, and she just wasn't able to sit up unassisted. And so we threw in a couple sessions with her. And after her second session, the little seat that she was sitting in I'm not even taking it back home with me. She doesn't need it. She's sitting up unassisted all by herself. I'm like, we don't even need it. I'm not traveling back home with it, because they worked with her and just did some infield and some exercises that was helping to just really fire up her muscles and help her to create that core strength it was coming. It was just she was just taking her time with it. And I think maybe as the third, I was holding her a little much and just, babying her maybe a little bit, but she's doing wonderful. And after a few sessions or 2 sessions, she was sitting up completely unassisted on her own now. And she's just sitting with brother. Unfortunately, now brother's not sitting with her as much. He's wanting to get up and go.
Yeah. So, I'm just like, come on, I just got on your level. What are we doing?
I know, I know. So they're both doing good. So I knew while I was here, and I thought, she's almost approaching 7 months. Our focus really has been my son, Jonah. But knowing in the back of my head, okay, we're still not, kind of makes you more hyper aware of your other kids. Okay, are we able to do what we're supposed to be doing? Are you meeting those milestones? And the last thing I want is to deal with delayed milestones again. So if there's anything I can do to help that, then I'm going to do that earlier on. And so at the age that she's at right now, they tested her reflexes. They see, okay, hers hasn't come online yet. They're just not there yet, and she should. And that's going to prevent her from being able to roll and crawl and stuff. So they said, let's get it started, 3 or 4 hours and then an at-home plan using that laser, and she's going to be good.
Often we hear about the retention of those primitive reflexes here and how to reintegrate those in. But yeah, just the importance of, those reflexes are there for a reason.
Right.
And they are such an important developmental,
When Dr. Ashley was doing her evaluation and she's saying, okay, well, she doesn't have these reflexes. So, well, how do we do the opposite? Everything that I'm dealing with is trying to get these to go away. And here she is, she doesn't even have them. And we want her to have them. So that's the whole other aspect of this, like them coming online later can also be detrimental to their mobility and their development. So being able to say, okay, now how do we, get them to fire on and start doing what they're supposed to do to help with this mobility and stuff. And they're doing that as well. So they can get rid of them. They can bring them on too.
It's such an order of operations.
It is.
Sort of thing. So, yeah, our team here is just really skilled at what they're able to do. So yeah, both sides of that coin, they're able to, bring them online to help them develop at that particular point in life. And then later on to reintegrate those so that they develop appropriately and continue to. And
it was neat having 2 kids to see both sides of that.
That would be fascinating.
The one that doesn't have the reflexes yet, and the one that we're trying to get rid of them. And so I believe now seeing my 7-month-old and how she didn't have those, I firmly believe that my sons didn't come until much later. And I think that was a lot of his problem. And had we been able to do this at 7 months, if I'd have known, if I'd have had that education and that knowledge, then then I would have brought him before he was 1. But at that time, I didn't know. I didn't know what primitive reflexes were. I didn't know what any of this was until I just went head first, bought all the books, started reading all the things. I'm online, I'm doing the research, I'm listening to the podcast, I'm doing everything, and I'm just fully educating myself on it. And I'm like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is where we need to go. This is how we, reaching out to people who know more than me and learning from them and saying, tell me about this, show me about this. And, where do I find more information about this? And that's a big part of this is the parents being educated and knowing about this. You don't just have to accept the diagnosis. You don't have to just accept that your child can't do these things. You can say, well, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to find help. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to read the books. I'm going to listen to these experts that know what they're doing and where we're seeing this success and we're seeing this true healing occur. And I'm going to say, what are y'all doing? Tell me about this. Show me about this. And how can I give this to my child?
1,000%. Yeah. That's one of our biggest goals here is just to, spread the word. Like even some of our lead providers and their formal education, primitive reflexes was something that they touched on for like half a class throughout their entire thing. And it's such a foundational thing that I feel like most people don't ever hear about. And my wife and I were watching Grey's Anatomy, and the fact that like a palmar reflex came up as one of the big aha things of talking about primitive reflex, I was shocked. Like, oh, people might actually start knowing what these things are. And, we want to get the word out there just because too often we end up hearing like, well, there were any other resources left for us. We didn't know where else to go. We thought we exhausted everything through more traditional means of therapy, healthcare. And it's sad, but all very heartening that we're able to be that resource that they didn't know was there. So
I think more doctors need to be able to give this information. The fact that we as parents don't know these things is a disservice. And so I can't tell you how many doctors that we've went to that didn't know anything about integrating primitive reflexes. How, my son has the MTHFR. That's a huge part of his development, his ability to be able to detoxify. And that plays into a huge role into the autism holistic world and stuff. And there's doctors who don't even know what that is. And they couldn't tell you about it. And I'm asking questions about things and they can't answer them. And that's not okay.
That's got to be frustrating as a parent.
These doctors need to know more than just what they do on a daily basis, And I think we need to just get as much information out there as we can and tell everybody we can about this and be able to say there are options out there. And if you are any sort of healthcare provider, think outside the box and realize that if you want to truly help and do no harm, then education is power and knowledge is power. And there is a way to do this that may go against the mold, but it's working. And maybe it's just painful to reimagine your healthcare plan and your mindset of what healthcare can be for children with, several different types of needs. In my case, for autism, what they offered me and what they said was available to us. I mean, we were on a 18-month wait list for a diagnosis to have an evaluation, to have a diagnosis. I said, no, I'm not. 18 months. They said, we will put you on the wait list. It ended up being 19. She said, in 18 months, we will call you and schedule it for about a month out. And I said, okay. And they said, well, once he gets the diagnosis, then we can start these therapies. I said, I'm not waiting a year and a half to start these therapies. I'm not waiting a year and a half to help him crawl and walk and talk. I mean, you tell me, everybody says, early intervention is key. And that's this motto of mainstream medical. Early intervention is key. Get them into therapy. Okay, well, if I want him to have access to these things, I need to have these diagnoses. And you want him to have this so we can take this paper in and say, here's this diagnosis. This is what we need, prescribed. These are the therapies that were prescribed. And you're telling me that it's going to be 19 months before I can start that process? I'm not going to wait for that.
That's so disheartening to hear.
So that's when your mama power comes in and you say, nope, not going to happen.
Absolutely not.
And you step in and you say, I'm going to do better for my kid. I'm going to do more for my kid than that. And you just trying to solely rely on doctors' advice and stuff, their hands are tied in an aspect too. And that's all they have to offer, because that's all that they're allowed to offer. They're taught about, you don't know what you don't know. So if you can't educate and inform outside of your realm of knowledge, then there's not more you can do. And so the amount of autism that we have in the nation there should be more. With the amount of people that we have, there should be more options for care. And I think if this kind of care here at Infinity could be offered for everybody, you would see a different world.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about our team, particularly Dr. Lauren. There's a couple times I've referred to him as the credible Hulk, just because not only stature, but literally every conversation he has about care and plans and therapy, he can cite sources of these studies say this research, backs this up. It's not just trial and error. These are all research-based techniques that people here are using. And I wish that information was more readily available, because
and
so many
I love the
people need it.
transparency here. I've taken the courses, and those are amazing. That was when I started taking the courses before we came here. Once I had purchased the laser and had access to some of the courses online, and I'm sitting there, through all of the videos with Dr. Lauren, and it's just, they show you the proof. They show you the studies. They show you the evidence to back this up. There's no disputing its effectiveness. There's no disputing what it can really do for you. And so seeing that and having that knowledge and having that information, it was just a jam-packed full of information that I was starving for as a mom, trying to learn all this. And it was all right there. Here's your laser. Here's what we're doing. Here's what the photobiomodulation does. Here's what these primitive reflexes are. Here's what a speech protocol is going to do. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And I was thankful for it. And I am thankful for the courses and the information that they gave, because that gave me a heads up on understanding what we were getting into when we came here, knowing and understanding what, the doctors and the therapists are telling me here, and having that background, having taken those courses. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yep. I remember, Dr. Lauren was speaking about this. He drew this out on the whiteboard and he showed this, and I'm understanding what you're saying and how it's now I'm physically seeing it on my son and what you're doing. And it just kind of brings it all full circle, where you can see it work and see it, how it all plays out.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say, or any other message that you feel would be important to get out there?
Kind of like my dad said, if you have any hesitation about what's going on here, it's gone. There's no hesitation anymore. This what you guys do here is amazing. And this space is, you feel very seen here, very heard. The waiting room, it's full of other parents that are dealing with the same exact things you are. There's no judgment. When your kid's having a meltdown, we all know, if anything, it's just a pat on the back, like, we get it. We get it. We're all here under the same umbrella of seeking the best care we can for our kids. And the doctors and the therapists, we worked with Dr. Tanner for our 2 weeks here, and he's patient, and he took the time to learn about Jonah, learn what he likes, what he doesn't like, and how to help calm him and how to help get him through these therapies without just being, driven on his job. It was more than that. It was, him holding him and patting him and calming him down himself. And I see my son, who's now feels comfortable with him and he's reaching for him when he's upset. He's like, "Mir, give me a hug." And Dr. Tanner's able to love on him and calm him down. And so it's just a place where you can come and get the help that you need and feel safe and feel cared for and taken care of and have those questions answered. and you leave here and you're empowered and you're knowledgeable, and you take that home and you work on that with your kids and then tell everybody you know about it.
Great. Well, your kids are very lucky that you were such an advocate for them, to give them that early intervention and bring them in. And I know I can speak for everyone here that we're glad that we were able to be a part of that journey, and hope that it just brings nothing but success for everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.